Hello, everyone. I'm so glad that you're joining us today for another episode of Up and to the Right. And I hope that you'll just take a moment to share this. Just love it. Let us know that you are watching us, and also whatever platform it is, just give us a 5-star and give us some comments and feedback, and we would greatly appreciate it. And today you're in for something very special because I have a dear friend of mine and a wonderful man of God, Pastor Bishop Joel Tudman, with us today. He is a coach, he is a motivator, he is a great preacher, and I'm so glad that you're sitting down with me and we get to have a conversation.
I'm so glad you invited me to Up and to the Right. And he called me all those names, Bishop, Pastor, just Joel, okay? But this is my buddy. I love him. You're amazing. Thank you for the invitation. And I am so excited that we get a chance to have this talk.
Yeah. Well, so looking back on our relationship and how it came, it's been now several years ago.
Yes.
But we had several opportunities where we just sat down and have lunch together, breakfast together, and got to talk about, and when we talked about that, we weren't talking about, numbers in a church or this, that. We're talking about our relationship with God and our relationship with our family, because those are the two things that are very, very important for us.
Family is important. And I'm going to tell you something. When I first got here, I really didn't have, I wasn't married. You know, I was single. I moved from Texas. So I had never been somewhere where I didn't get to have turkey and dressing and sweet potato pie. And this was the first time I moved to Oklahoma, and I had duck and pumpkin pie and, and lemon sweet tea. It was a whole culture shock moving here to Oklahoma. So I got married 11 years ago. Okay. And my beautiful wife, I think we've got a picture of her. I want to show her. Yeah, she's a beautiful woman. Now, if you look at this picture, I was 240 pounds. Now, this woman can cook, and she doesn't just cook for like myself. She cooks for like 50 people. So COVID
was probably good for you.
COVID increased my anointing by 40 pounds.
40 pounds.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. We have amazing family. I will show you my massive family. We have a tribe. Okay.
Oh, that is
Two
beautiful.
of those young ladies on the end, those are my sisters who I love so much. But we've got a blended family. We've got a blended family. We don't believe in the stepdad and the stepmama thing. We come together collectively, and we have an amazing time. It started out hard, but over time, we became inseparable. And I love every last one of them.
That is beautiful.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for sharing your family and Tasha with us, and just we're so thrilled.
Thank you,
sir.
To
have you.
Thank you, sir.
And we may get into some of that topic in regards to blended family a little bit later.
Sure.
So, but let's start off just talk a little bit about you in regards to what brought you to Oklahoma.
I was playing football in college, and that's a whole other story within itself. My coach, Curtis Looper, came here when Coach Gundy became the new head coach. He was the running back coach. Well, he was my coach in college. And he said, "Hey, I know you said you wanted to get into college coaching when you were done." He says, "Now, it's a beginner entry-level job." He said, "But in Division I football, the sky's the limit. You just got to get in. If you get in, you know, you can go, and I believe in you." And I said, "Well, thanks." He says, "I'm going to see if I can get you in the door." And it was a week later, I got a call from Coach Rob Glass, and who I later came to find out was one of the greatest strength coaches in the world. I drove to Oklahoma, did an interview at, not Panera Bread, but there's another one, McAllister's.
Okay.
We went to McAllister's, we interviewed, we talked, I toured the school, and he says, "When can you start?" And I said, "I can start right now." And he goes, "Well, we can't start today, but how about February?" So I came back in February of 2004 and worked all the way to just recently, last July, I walked away to do ministry full time.
And you got to name that school, because this is very important.
You know I got to name it because there's pistols firing
Absolutely,
everywhere. Okay,
absolutely.
Oklahoma State Cowboys, baby. Oklahoma State Cowboys, absolutely. It's been a great run in Oklahoma. I'm gonna tell you something. Coaching, I miss it probably more than anything.
Yeah.
Just the players' lives, watching them come in one way and leave another way. That's so rewarding.
Yeah.
For me, it was personal because I blew it. I signed with the Razorbacks when I first came out of high school. And I'm on the front page of the Amarillo Globe News signing with the Razorbacks. Then the next day, I'm on the front page going to jail because I got into a fight with the teacher. Arkansas wanted me bad enough to say, hey, you know, look, we're going to stay with you, but you got to graduate. Like, okay, great. I go to school, summer school, and I guess I didn't get the trespassing warrant cleared from when they arrested me, and they arrested me again. And this time my mom and my aunt, she's one of the principals at the school, and they're connected to the warden at the prison in Amarillo. So they let me go to jail and have like this weekend experience that everybody watches on television with the kids scared straight. So I get my own version of scared straight.
Yeah, yeah.
So I'm left in the corrections over the weekend, and it was the worst experience ever, the worst food ever. And I was like, I don't want to live that way. Heck no, forget that. But it didn't change my life. It shocked me, but it didn't change. My choices didn't change. I still ended up being stupid. I didn't realize that the coach had told me I needed to graduate. So I was like, I'll go get a GED. And I went to go get a GED. They're like, you can't play Division I football with a GED. You have to graduate. By this time, my record is so bad, nobody wants to even let me sniff their school. So I work. I work for 3.5 years at some odd jobs. And one night, I was at Norris Cylinder in Longview, Texas. And they make the oxygen tanks. And I was turning this big one. My forearms are huge. I'm turning this big one. I'm like 21 years old.
Your forearms are huge now.
They're tiny Tims.
I'm sitting in this interview. I'm like, oh, it looks so little.
You're jacked up.
Yeah. Gotcha.
I'm turning these cylinders, and this guy walks over. He's my supervisor. He says, hey. I said, sir. He says, how much are you making? I said, $7.25. He said, I'm your supervisor. You know how much I make? I said, $20. He says, 10. He said, you know how long I've been here? I said, no, sir. 20 years. You see what you get to look forward to? Why aren't you in school? I said, well, I messed up. He said, how old are you? I said, 21. He said, get out of here and go to school. I said, I don't know anything about, because all I knew was scholarships. I didn't know anything about filling out a loan application. I didn't even know that process. I was a highly recruited athlete, and I didn't know that world. So it was foreign language to me. So I quit. And I went to seminary school. I went to Lawnmowers College in Jacksonville, Texas.
Come on.
And I took 21 hours of Bible courses and did like 30 days into going to school. I got this bill saying, if you don't pay this bill, you're going to be put out. And I was like, oh my God, what do I do? What do I do? Because I didn't know what to do. And here's a crazy story. I know I'm talking too much, but here's this crazy story. I'm a drummer. I'm a Pentecostal boy. I'm a Kojic, Church of God in Christ, who has close connections to the Assemblies of God. Mm-hmm. I can play the drums. Well, the band, I watched them playing at the basketball games in a jazz set. So I went to the music room and I asked the professor, hey, I don't have any money and I'm about to get put out of school. I said, if I play for you, would you put me on scholarship? He says, can you play? I said, yes. So he turns the metronome. Can you read music? I said, I cannot read music. So he turns on the metronome. The band starts, and I just played with him.
Yeah.
Played the set. When class was over, he says, I will pay for your education. He said, but you got to learn music. I said, no problem. And that was an amazing blessing.
Good.
And it's amazing that I couldn't even catch how God was trying to bless me back then. Yeah. I was so psychotic in my behavior. I was kind of the person that's, okay, I need what I need, God, and then go on by my way.
Yeah.
But God made a way for me. And then I ended up getting back in school. I ended up going to East Texas State, Texas A&M Commerce, and that's how I met Curtis Looper. And he's been a mentor to me to this day. I ran track there, became an All-American there. And that was my journey to Oklahoma State University from that way. It's been amazing, too.
So at Oklahoma State, you made an impact on a lot of people.
Wow.
I know people personally. I know people in our church.
Wow.
People outside the church, relationships that I have that you have. In fact, one young man, just matter of fact, his name's Kyle. I just texted him because I knew that he played football. He was a walk-on student athlete at Oklahoma State. Ended up earning a scholarship.
Yes, sir.
I think his last 2 years,
Yes,
and ended
sir.
up being captain of the special teams for I think his last 2 years, his junior and senior year. But I sent him and just said, hey, I'm going to be interviewing, Pastor Joel Tudman. Do you have any thoughts that you want to, or questions? And his first statement is just, I love him.
Wow.
And then he goes on and says his relationship minded coaching strategy and the way he motivates his athletes to work for him was something I will never forget. But more importantly is how he lived his Christian walk 24/7, and I saw that.
Wow.
You made an impact on people. I know Coach Yo, who impacted my daughter greatly. You impacted her, she was a soccer player from Sweden who comes in to play at Oklahoma State and ends up meeting you, one of the best in the world, 4-time All-American.
Yes.
At Oklahoma State, which was off the chart amazing. And she and I think 3 different positions she was All-American.
And she put Oklahoma State on the map.
Yes, she did. And then she met you.
Yes, sir.
And you began to plant those seeds and began to, probably like Jesus with the woman at the well. You just began to work on her, and the Holy Spirit was working on her.
Wow.
And here's a young lady who was a self-proclaimed atheist, agnostic at best, whatever, but she ends up coming to know Jesus Christ as Lord and Savior.
And is a strong pastor right now. She's pastoring in Tulsa.
In Tulsa, yeah. Yes.
World Outreach Church.
Absolutely.
Yes, sir.
And she's pastoring soccer players all the time.
Yes.
But what I love about that, and I want you to speak to that just a moment, because several of the student athletes at Oklahoma State spoke to how you impacted their life, how they saw Christ in you. And it's one thing for you to be at Potter's house. That's where you're on staff right now, and you're the right-hand guy to Bishop Jakes, and you step in and fill in the pulpit when he's not there. But bottom line is this, is that you got that huge audience. But talk to us a little bit about how sweet it is to lead the one.
It's everything. It's relational. Preaching to the crowd. Sometimes it's, number one, you don't preach to the crowd. We both know that. But you got to stay focused to try to spread a message so many different ways. That church holds 8,000 people. There's 60,000 people watching. The church we had here at Oklahoma grew to maybe 12 at the most. It's probably around 400 or 500 maybe now. But numbers, you're just trying to communicate a lesson massively. But that one-on-one, to me, it just really emphasizes the personal touch. Can I sit down and have dialogue with you?
Yeah.
And you can't hide behind a microphone. You can't hide behind cliches.
Nope.
You can't hide behind your education. Do you care enough to see into me, to see past what I brought in the room, and to look into me and see those folding places that I haven't been able to express with anybody? And the truth is, if you really want to have an impact with somebody one-on-one, you need to see yourself in the person that you're talking to.
Oh, that is so good. Go ahead.
If I can look at you and know that there's a broken Rodney somewhere in there, or there's a Rodney that struggled with whatever, then my conversation is going to be soft. It's not going to be harsh. It's going to be laced with grace. And it's going to be something that I make sure that I communicate care and concern. The love of Christ, his name doesn't necessarily has to be named. The action has to be expressed. The fact that I'm sitting with you, that's Christ. I'm crying with you, that's Christ. I'm enjoying the moment of being with you, that's Christ. I get a chance to listen to you, that's Christ. One of the things you told me when I first met you, tell me your story. I'll never forget it. Because I had never been around a lot of white pastors. But I found the commonality between black pastors and white pastors. The black pastor wanted to know about the church. The white pastor wanted to know about your family. He wanted to know how you felt. So I was like, whoa, there's something different here. And the commonality between most of the white pastors that I met that actually cared it started in the conversation. We'd have coffee.
Yeah.
We'd have dinner, the one-on-ones.
Yeah.
And as I got older as a leader, that became everything for me. At Oklahoma State, in my office, it was one-on-ones that would last so long that sometimes I had to run them out of the office because I had to make sure I got to the next group. But there'd be guys that come in that struggled with, I'm not going to call their names, but just about everything that you can imagine.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, from drugs, homosexuality, not understanding themselves, grades, pregnancy, unmet expectations. I want to transfer. Should I stay? Am I good enough? Coming in, I was the man. Now I'm nobody. But that nobody was based off of the applause of people. You know, the state championship, everybody was ringing my bell. Oklahoma State was ringing my bell. And now I'm signing with Oklahoma State, but Oklahoma State won't put me on the field. Just not understanding the process of what it takes to become what you were recruited to be. That very often, it's not often that a guy's going to just walk out of high school and become the man. It takes some time. And so guys would come in and we'd have those conversations about so many different there are a plethora of things. And in the end, I would say these words: is it okay with you if I pray with you? Yeah. At the very end, maybe one or two guys were like, I don't know about that. I don't know if I'm afraid of that. And I said, that's okay. It's all good. And I'd grip them up, give them a hug, and I said, I'll see you tomorrow. And over and over again, then you get that, hey, coach, can you pray for me? Like,
so good.
Sure. But the interesting thing, I'll say this, and I'll move. Coach Gundy had a unique way of letting the guys know that having a relationship with God, and he would say whatever your belief is important. So we took out 15 to 20 minutes every Thursday in the team meeting, coaches, players, everybody. It's 200 of us in a room. And those first 15 minutes, those were opportunities for me to teach life skills. But my life skills were always inculcated with like Nehemiah. Nehemiah is a leader. And I put it up there. Hey, I want you to read something. Doesn't mean you don't have to be a Christian to read this. Just check it out. Yeah. And I'd put Nehemiah up there and how Nehemiah built the wall. And Nehemiah would tell them, hey, I'm not coming down. And then we turn around and show them, we're trying to build a championship. So you got to learn how to tell those people that want to go out and drink tonight, want to go out and smoke tonight.
I'm not coming down from the wall.
I'm not coming down.
I'm doing a good work.
I'm doing a good work.
Yes.
So we would put those things in the lessons automatically. And that gave an opportunity for the light to shine in a huge room. And I believe those moments were the moments that says, you know what? He's not afraid to actually share his faith in front of this entire room. And he's a big dude. Yeah. He doesn't care. We'd be on the platform. Guys are power cleaning 385 pounds or 405 or 315. And right in the middle of it, he's like, I don't know if I can do it. I'll get down and do it. Boom! No warm up, nothing. They're like, how you do that? And I was like, it's the power of God. And they're like, and they're like, the power of God. I'm like, it's the power of God. Let's go. So those little moments, I would find moments to just throw it in and it would catch them off guard. Sure. Before the game. We never played a game that I didn't pray. Mm-hmm. And then it got to where after I'd been there maybe 12 years, I started picking people to pray. Yeah. Hey, you pray. I don't know how to pray. Well, I'll pray with you. Come on. Mm-hmm. And the influence began to grow. It's good. So I love football. I miss it. I love those guys. Just hearing Kyle's story say that almost brought me to tears. And I'm trying to be a man and keep my tears up to the right. Yeah. And not come out. You were pastoring people before you were a pastor even. Wow. Yes, sir. And what I really want people to hear in regards to what you just shared, what you were doing, and what the stories I get from young men and women, because you were also responsible for a lot of young women athletes who came in there, is that all of us are not called to be one of the fivefold ministry gifts in regards to the response, but every one of us as a follower of Christ are called to disciple others. Yes, absolutely. And that's what you were doing. You were taking on young men. And when you started, you were much older than them. I was 27 years old. And then you just grew, and I'm sure you learned a lot. But because there's people that they're showing up to work every day, and God has given them people to pastor, people to disciple. They may be
employee. And maybe it is, because I see this happen often, that you need to be discipling and pastoring that employer.
Yes, sir.
Or your direct report. So it's not an issue of the flow chart.
Absolutely.
It's an issue of flowing in the Spirit.
Absolutely.
And hearing the Spirit to be able to help people along that journey.
I think two things. Number one, our head coach, Coach Gundy, at that time, he wasn't really going to church a lot. But one of our players had heard me speak somewhere before. And when I got there, there was maybe 6 guys going to chapel. Mm-hmm. And he goes, "Hey, Coach, can we let him speak?" And I'm like, "Who?" They're like, "You, Coach. You should speak for us one time." So he says, "Hey, you want to speak at the next game?" And I was like, sure. So the whole team comes in. That was the beginning.
Yeah.
The entire team comes in. And I'm not a fire and brimstone guy, but I was born and raised in fire and brimstone. So I'm like, oh, give him glory, and I'm trying to figure out, how do you master this moment? Because we're not in church and I've not done this before, so I don't know what to do. And at that moment, I just shared my story, my failure. I shared my failure, and I told them why it meant so much to me to stand before them, because I wish I had someone that stood before me like that I could recognize and understand and say, you know what, I'm not doing that. Mm-hmm. And that became my mission, to make sure that I didn't see another guy fail. Second thing, how you respond to failure in front of those guys. And I bring that up because you said that there are people that are working that may be at different places in the hierarchy. Yeah. And you may feel like, well, I've not lived a perfect life, so I can't lead or I can't have influence. Everybody's had their failures, whatever way, whatever place, and you can't allow that thing to speak louder than the right thing.
Absolutely.
And how you fail is everything. So there were times I failed. I wasn't a perfect dude at Oklahoma State. And I look back at all the mistakes that I made, but how I failed, how I respond to my failures. I would tell those guys, there was a couple of times I cussed a player out because and the guys, I bet you right now, if you ask the guys how many times they heard Coach Tudman cuss, you couldn't count it on one hand. Mm-hmm. In all those years, you wasn't going to get it from me. But there was a couple of times, a couple of guys just pushed my button and I just lost it, okay? And when I lost it, it hurt me so bad to lose it. Yeah. I went in the dressing room, closed the door. I said, I'm sorry. I wanted to hurt the guy. Yeah. But I had hurt all those other guys, like Kyle, my reputation, Jesus. Mm-hmm. And I said, you know what? I'm wrong. I am wrong. I'm wrong. No matter what he did to me, I'm wrong. And I apologize. 2 wrongs don't make a right. So everything that I just did canceled out everything that I said he did. So forgive me. Guys, let's go in there and let's have an amazing workout today. All right? Mm-hmm. And they're like, let's go. It's over. How you fail.
John Maxwell wrote a book, Failing Forward.
I love it.
And just that title is enough. It speaks volumes. So thank you for sharing that, because, what is so brilliant about God's story to us, which is his Bible, the Bible that he's written to us, Genesis to Revelation. In the New Testament, it says that everything that was written in the Old Testament is for our example and our learning. Well, most of it's failures.
Yes.
There's really only 2 guys that maybe you can say that there was very much written about them, probably like Joseph and Daniel.
Being before him, Enoch.
Yeah, that maybe didn't have a lot of failures.
You have a lot, yeah.
Other than that, and Enoch didn't. They wrote like 4 verses for him, yeah. But everybody else, it was about their mess ups,
yes,
their failures. But I don't know how they failed and what they learned from that, and what came out of that.
Yes, it's everything. And I think that we've painted this picture in church and in Christianity to make people feel like, man, if you fail, you're doomed, you're done. And that's so wrong.
That's why they can't confess their sins one to another.
That's right.
That's why we keep it hidden. Pastor Joe, most of the time, people come to me with, like, if it's a marriage that's, by the time anyone finds out, they're like, it's over. It's over. They're going, and because they didn't want anybody to know their laundry. Mm-hmm. They didn't want anybody to know about their stuff.
And that's the way the world is. Yes. We have this facade of strength, perfectionism. I think we've all gone through it. Now I understand why they would say, hey, you don't need to preach as a young man. I'm like, no, he called the young because he's strong. But I understand now I hadn't lived enough life to understand what it takes to actually be seasoned with grace, to understand failure, to understand how to bounce back, how to give grace, how to give mercy. Now I understand. There were things I learned as a pastor where I thought I was right. And I thought I handled it right. And now that I've gotten older and a little bit more wiser, I ended up blowing up 10 people when I should have just sat down and had that one conversation, but I didn't know how to handle it.
I've been there. I've been there. There's some people I've either had to go back to apologize, people I wish I could go back to apologize to say, you know what? I messed up.
Yeah.
I messed up. Man, this is so good.
It is.
So let me just, you spent those years at Oklahoma State, made a difference in people's lives. And then you also had a time frame where God began to deal with you about starting a church. Of course, you got some things going up at Oklahoma State. And then you ended up planting a church here in Oklahoma City.
Yes, sir.
And then you were dealing with a whole lot more than you've ever dealt with.
Oh, God.
And then getting married with that too.
Yeah.
And then you had, matter of fact, whenever I first met with you, many years ago now, I was concerned for you. Because you had a lot of stinking stuff on your plate. And when you are doing a full-time job at Oklahoma State with having to get there at 4:30 in the morning, yes, and prepping for the workouts and all the things that you need to do there, and then investing so much energy, yes, into young men and women. I mean, because you're motivating them. People don't realize what it takes to motivate at a high level. It takes a lot. And get the best out of people. And that's what you do when you was coaching, and that's what you're doing when you're pastoring. And then you got your family, and a blended family at that. And I remember when I first met you, I walked away and said, oh, God, you need to help him. Because you had a lot on your plate.
It's amazing because I'm saying this, I'm going to just throw him under the bus real quick. He texts me, he goes, hey, you want to talk about balance? And I didn't even respond to that part, because I'm like, no, I am the worst when it comes to balance. And he just said, why? We got married. I'd already been coaching, and I was pastoring a new church, and it was growing, and I hadn't had any training on how to do what I was doing. My father planted a church, but I was a kid. Yeah. And his church probably got as big as maybe 150 people. Yeah. I mean, we started out in an old place on the south side of town. It was a humongous building, held 700, 800 people. And it was maybe 10 of us on the front row. And I didn't know anything about Oklahoma City. I just knew that we were called to start a church here. And we had been doing some Sunday nights in Stillwater. And every night that we did those Sunday nights in Stillwater, it got bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. It grew. So I know I didn't want to pastor in Stillwater. I wanted to be in Oklahoma City. So 10 amazing students that had graduated were like, hey, let's go. We were out at downtown. I can't think of the proper name, but we're downtown. We're in Bricktown, passing out flyers like crazy, praying for people. So we get ready for this big service. We're getting ready to lunch, all right? We lunch, no money. I've got all the money. They've got no money, zero money. I got all the money from my job. And we lunch. I think we got 20 people show up. I'm like, oh, my God, this is failure. But I preached. I preached, and I preached, and I preached. And that thing blew up. It blew up. None of us, now I'm talking about people that came with me from college. One of them was an atheist that becomes a believer. One of them was Episcopalian that becomes Spirit-filled. One was missionary Baptist that goes here now that gets Spirit-filled. All of them get baptized in the Holy Ghost on a Sunday night. And they're like, let's go. I'm ready. And so we go out there. It takes us a little while to get going, 3 or 4 months were shaky. But after that, we didn't know what to do. Everywhere we went, it's packed. We blow out walls, packed. Multiple services, packed. We didn't know what to do. So in the process of all that, we moved. I don't know. We didn't move because we were unstable. We moved because we didn't have the capacity. We didn't have a place that could hold us within the budget. So I had that going on, plus 4:30 in the morning to 6, 7 in the evening, and a new marriage.
Yeah.
And my wife is like, who did I marry?
And a ton of kids.
And a ton of kids.
That were much younger then, which demanded a whole lot more time and energy.
Blended family. They're like, yo, I don't even know you. How you going to be my, you know. So I got all that going on. Plus now let's just tell the truth. Plus my own trash.
Yeah.
I got my own stuff that I'm dealing with. I'm trying to become a better person, and I'm trying to lay the groundwork as a coach, and my church is growing, and I don't know what to do. So I'm like sending teams to Houston, sending teams to Cleveland. I'm going to Orlando. We're just trying to figure out how do we do this.
Yeah.
It was difficult, and we almost divorced the first year. She said to me, I don't know if I can do this because we have a baby girl. She's 10 now. She said, she doesn't even know you. I would try to hold her, and she would just cry. She would scream. She's like, she doesn't know you. So it was bad, but praise Jesus, we made it.
Yeah.
My God. So the balance thing was super duper hard for me. I did have a lot going on. The church continued to grow. We bought multiple places, multiple pieces of property. You helped me through it, coaching me through purchasing the latest property that we bought. So it was a run, you know, it was a strong run, and I bless God for the experience.
Yeah,
I do.
Do you think during that time you really had to stop and with all of that was going on, like, okay, I've got to value my relationship with God and then my wife and family.
That was it.
If something slips, because I remember having that conversation with you at a little soup and salad place down around 63rd, Nichols Hills area. I remember that. Yep. And that conversation specifically was with you were having so much on your plate at that time. And then really you trying to say, okay, I've got to, yes, I'm a pastor of this church. Yes, I've got to do my responsibilities at Oklahoma State, but my family.
They're everything.
You got to protect that and save that.
Absolutely.
Obviously your relationship with Christ, but everything flows out of that to your family.
Yes. The family is everything. And I want to, again, even appreciate you, because those were conversations that if I hadn't had them, I don't know if we would have made it. I didn't have a lot of people in my life that could coach me through what I was experiencing. Most of the successful pastors that I knew, their church was already like 10,000 people. Yeah. We were probably at that time doing 200 or 300 people, and I didn't have anybody that I knew that had 200 or 300 people. Probably more than that. I think we had more than that. We were doing double services. Yeah,
you were.
So we were doing really good, and I didn't have any other African-American pastors my age that were growing like that and growing into something. So the conversations were just lopsided.
Yeah.
You know, I didn't know what to do. So I started seeking you out, guys like you, trying to find out, well, how do I manage this? My marriage is on the rocks. And guys like you really helped me understand, hey, family is more important than all of this. You know, I don't think, Pastor Rodney, I missed a Sunday service. I know I didn't. I didn't do sabbaticals. I didn't do any of that stuff. We went to Hawaii to the Pro Bowl. One of my players is in the Pro Bowl, says, I want you to come to the Pro Bowl. He paid for my entire family to go to the Pro Bowl. We go to Hawaii. We're on the island the whole week. He goes, are you staying for the game? I says, no, I got to go preach. He said, what? I said, I want to be getting off the plane, ready to preach. I got 2 services to do.
Yeah.
And I flew home and preached those services, feeling like I was just a superhero pastor in the world. And the pastor friend of mine called me and says, are you stupid? He says, one day you're going to turn around and just slap yourself in the face. That church will be fine. Yeah. They're fine. Enjoy Hawaii. Paid for, experience your entire family, and you rush back to preach 2 sermons. That's how bad I had it. Yeah. That's how bad I had it. But praise Jesus, I figured it out.
God got you through that. God got you through that. Now, let's talk a little bit about, would you have any suggestions for, there are so many in North Church blended families. So many. And in our culture, it's more and more. We're blended families as part of my staff. A lot of our staff are blended families. Any advice that you have for somebody that maybe they are in a blended family, they're struggling right now, or maybe they are about to enter that blended family? Any advice that you would have for them?
Sure. I will share with you things that helped us along the way. Before Zoom became Zoom, like it is now with the pandemic, we would have Zoom family meetings. We would just talk.
Yeah.
And sometimes I had two in particular. I'm not going to call their names. They would just get on the screen and just do this. They wouldn't say one word, but they always got on the Zoom.
Good.
They always got on the Zoom. Sometimes one of them would black the screen out. And I'm like, yo, unlock the screen. And then one day I just said, forget it. You're here.
Yeah.
And eventually they started communicating. Time is everything. And you're going to have to learn how to wait. And you're going to have to restrict some of the things that you want to say. You just cannot say. Because you can't take back.
Filter that mouth.
Yeah, you cannot take back what they feel after you said it.
As a response to what you say, they can't do that.
So you got to really bite your tongue.
Yeah.
And know that you're dating their mother or you're dating their father. And they were your mother or your father before they became your stepdad or your stepmother.
Yeah.
And it takes time. It takes time. It takes time before you can have the one-on-ones. You don't force them. Wait. Try to do as many family things as you can. That's where we got our family day from. I was born, Pastor, mom, 2 boys, 1 girl. And mom had 2 jobs. So we did a lot on our own, but she could do whatever she could do. So we didn't have a lot of, I love you, I love a lot of, not because she didn't, but because she was working and her actions was her love.
Sure.
So that's how I was brought up. But when we had this blended family, my wife began to share with me, my mom is deceased. And if I had her here, oh my God, the things that I would say.
Yeah.
I'm not connected to my dad. If I had him here, the things that I would say. So I started making it intentional to say, hey, Kobe, I love you, man. And Kobe is he's the I was about to say the youngest boy, but the second to the youngest boy. And he's very, very quiet to himself. He can be in a room all day and you not even know it. He's going to play a video game. He's brilliant. So I just be like, hey, Kobe, I love you. And he'd be like, and I'm like, I'm not getting through to him. But then one day he goes, hey, Dad, what's up? And that just blew me away. You know what I mean?
Come on.
It blew me away.
Yeah.
One of the girls used to just sit at the edge of the bed, Jade, and she just look at me like this. And I'd be like, hey, Jade, you want to, wouldn't respond. And Jade is like everything to me today. You know what I mean? Like she's everything to me. So doesn't matter if they're perfect. I'm not trying to make them preachers. I'm not trying to make them praise and worship leaders. I love them for who they are. And we try to, as a family, to make sure that we don't do your kid, my kid. We don't do the my way, your way. We collectively sat down and did a contract with our family. We wrote our own constitution. And we all signed it. Hey, you may do this, but you're not going to do that. And you're not going to do that. You may do this and you may do this. And we all signed it. And we all still have that constitution to this day.
It's good.
So time is everything, and learn how to really filter that tongue, bite it. Don't say what you feel. Go ahead and say what needs to be said in a loving way. And I think over time, it will get better. I'm a living witness.
Yeah.
We have an amazing family.
Yeah.
We're not perfect, but we have an amazing family.
That's so good. So good. I heard, you said time. Time is, I heard somebody say it's not time that heals, it's what you do with time.
Yes.
And you use that time wisely. Heard Troy Aikman, great football player, and is a commentator when he said this. He was speaking of a certain player on a certain team. And he said, the greatest thing I could say about him, because he had played with the guy before and he was And the guy wasn't the star player, but he said, the greatest thing I can say about him, he kept showing up.
Wow.
He kept showing up. And what he meant by that is not that he just physically showed up. He showed up and he gave it his best. They knew they could count on him. And I think those parents in a blended family, you got to keep showing up knowing that my kids can still count on me.
Absolutely.
And you can count on me. And we're not expecting you to jump on this train right now, but yet we are headed this way, and we're going to keep loving you. We're going to keep working. We're going to keep doing what we need to do, and eventually they'll jump on that train completely.
You know what's so funny is I haven't talked to a lot of blended families, and I don't know if they've experienced this or not, but it would get to the point to where, like, my wife's daughters, they come to me. My boys, they go to her, you know. And for a little while, we were trying to figure out, are they trying to play us, you know, because maybe... No,
that's great. And that makes sense. It makes sense because they will have young girls that they can go to. They want to go to those young girls want to go to a man and hear. Somebody who they know is a godly man who's going to give them stuff, knowing that you have their best interest in mind.
It's amazing. It's amazing. So at first we were like, okay, do you think they're trying to play us against each other? Because... okay, these came from me and these came from you. What are they trying to do? But then over time, it just worked.
Yeah.
And like you said, we were just there trying to make sure we're there. Now, we have rocky moments, Pastor, and I'm not here to act like it was just perfect. We had some bombs where we had to say, look, you're not going to do this. One thing my wife did, I'm going to share this. She said in the beginning, you're not going to tear my relationship up with my husband.
So good.
She told the girls that you're not going to do that. We're not going to call him champ. We're not going to call him pastor. He's your dad. Period. And boy, that was rough. I was like, well, let's see what's going to happen. The boys, my boys, they were already like, yo, what's up, Mom? It was no big deal. So her girls, I didn't know how that was going to work. You know, it took time. And over time, I mean, my God, we can't tear us apart. We don't do the step thing. And I am furious if they miss Family Day. Furious. I want everybody there.
That's good. Good. Man. Hey, thank you for that. That's just really good. And I hope for that bless somebody out there. I know it did. You know, when you talked about what your wife said, that you're not going to come between me and, you know, my husband. You're not going to come between me and Joel. I remember my mom, whenever my mom did everything for us. My mom, I mean, she made our food, set it out there for us. I mean, up till I was through teenage years. But I remember one time, I was probably right around 12 years of age. And so then there was 3 other brothers. One of them was about 11, and then there was 2 others that were quite a bit younger. They were probably about 6 and 4 at the time. And I came in for dinner, and Mom had made my 2 younger brothers, which were much younger than us, plate. And she had made my dad's plate. My dad hadn't come in yet. The house is about to come in. But she did not make me, my plate, and my brother, who was a year younger than me. So he was about 11 years of age. And we were used to my mom just even making our plate. And she just told us, hey, you go make your own plate. We're in a hurry because we had to get around church. We got some things going on. She said, make your own plate. And I remember talking back to her and saying, well, you made, and I named my younger brother's plate. And she said, well, they're too young to make their own plate right now. And I want to make sure they get their plate made, and you just make your plate. And then I looked over and saw Dad's plate, and I said, well, you made Dad's plate, and he can make his own plate. My mom got some fire in her eyes and looked at me and pointed that finger. I remember her saying to me, you know what? Your dad, I loved him before I loved you. And someday you're going to be gone and he's going to remain.
That's right.
You get up and make your own plate. And I remember it as a 12-year-old boy. I don't know exactly my age, but I was close to that. It may have been a little bit younger. But I remember being hurt a little bit.
Yeah.
But there was also a seed that was planted there that taught me a lot about marriage and relationships and value. And it just stuck with me. Obviously, I'm still telling that story.
Yes, sir.
And it impacted me for the good because my mom valued her relationship. And that's a key thing for a lot of marriages, even for non-blended families. People that are together, a lot of marriages end because they begin to value their kids
Absolutely.
over their spouse that they loved first.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You know, you at least had a choice to love your spouse.
That's right.
You really had no choice to love your. Does that make sense?
It makes all the sense in the world.
Yeah.
Yeah. We're like that to this day. And we don't allow our kids to come between us. Our marriage is building stronger and stronger. We try to sit down and have those one-on-one conversations. The tough ones.
That's good.
That stuff that she don't want to talk about and stuff that I don't want to talk about. And I will tell you the pandemic helped us have those conversations.
Yeah.
Because we were forced to sit at home where work would kind of draw you away from that. And so being at home, we were able to have those tough conversations and keep each other centered and keep each other one in our lives.
Yeah. So let me just kind of switch gears a little bit
Okay.
and talk about what you're doing now. You are on staff. Tell us what you're doing right now.
I'm on staff at the Potter's House. I preached for Bishop Jakes maybe 2 years ago. And I preached in Easter, Good Friday. I preached for him Good Friday. Then he turned around and asked me to come right back. He was going to Africa and said, hey, I'm going to be going to Africa. I want you to preach again. And I was just blown away. I was like, really? First, I was blown away that he asked me the first time. Mm-hmm. And then the second time. And after that, we developed this relationship. We started talking on the phone about what I was doing here and the model that has been presented to me as far as pastoring. And he says, you're a good communicator. He said, but there's a lot you've missed with the way you've worked and pastored.
Yeah.
Working at the job.
Yeah.
All day, and then you're coming trying to give the church everything you got left, and then you got your family. He says, just no way you could be a successful pastor. Consider working for me. And I was like, I would love to work for you, but that was a difficult decision. It's probably one of the hardest decisions I've ever had to make in my life because I had a great career. Mm-hmm. I turned down several head jobs because of what Oklahoma State did to allow me to do both worlds.
Yeah.
So to make that decision was a life-altering decision. Church that I planted, to walk away from that. And it was not some little teeny church. It's a really good church.
Yeah.
To walk away from that, to walk away from a promising coaching career, because I could keep going.
Yeah.
To go work for the greatest communicator in the absolute world.
Yes.
So I had to weigh that. I had to weigh how long is he going to continue to do what he's doing? And then how long can I do this? And how long do I want to do it? And after we sat down and my wife and I, we talked, she said, let's do it. So we picked up and we moved to Dallas, Texas. I've been there a year Sunday. Will be a year Sunday. Mm-hmm. And I've been learning about big ministry, business, the business concept of church. He's a business mogul.
Yeah.
So learning what real leadership is all about. Of course, I think he's the greatest communicator in the world. So the communication skills get better by being with him. But he has just all around made me a better husband, leader, pastor, man, son. I've never had a man in my life. Like my father's alive, but he hasn't occupied the seat of a father. Yeah. And we don't have a bad relationship. But he has never occupied that seat.
Yeah.
And it happened with him. And I've never had the kind of conversations as a grown man that men have fathers to son. And I'm going to that length because I want you to understand when you ask me, what am I doing? It's more than sitting in teaching on a Wednesday or teaching on a Sunday, or it's everything. The entire model of manhood, husband, leader, preacher, teacher, businessman. It's a complete altering of what I was. And so I love it. I think it's incredible. It's priceless. Priceless.
I remember the first time that I heard Bishop T.D. Jakes preach. It was in the Mabee Center. Carlton Pearson was the guy that was leading the Azusa mission rally thing, and this is before you. This is long before you were. You were running from God at that time.
I heard the story about it. Oh,
but I was there.
Wow.
And it was powerful. And I'm like, who is this guy that brought that word? And because some of the other guys, I knew their names, but this guy I did not know. And that was really kind of his coming out right around that time. But I've watched him over the years. And you see some guys that are incredible that rise like that, and then they just seem to fizzle out or make wrong choices. But the things that I've heard about T.D. Jakes over the years, and that it's proven over time, that time thing you talked about a while ago,
yes, sir.
Time reveals a lot of things.
It reveals all.
It reveals a lot of things.
Yes, sir.
And so you have seen that what he has built his ministry on is not just flamboyancy. It's not just his gifts and talents, which that is amazing.
Yes, sir.
But he's built it on character. He's built it on the right things. The kingdom of God is built on relationships.
Yes, sir.
And he has built it on that relationship of loving God more than anything else, and then loving people. And then you add on top of that layers of just incredible gifts and talents, and then work ethic.
Yes, sir.
And all of those things. I've just been appreciative of that ministry. He's spoken to me because he's been probably, if there was number one voice that has spoken into me as a preacher, somebody from a distance.
Yes, sir.
Obviously don't know Bishop T.D. Jakes. You're somebody you're going to introduce me to him.
Yeah.
You're going to have me down there and introduce me to him.
Yes, sir.
But is just his consistency, his character, and he has spoken into me. And now to see that you get that opportunity to take the gifts and the talents, the character that you have, and now build upon that under one of the greatest communicators on the face of this planet.
Priceless. I can't tell you. It's priceless. I don't take it for granted at all. I'm living an absolute dream working with an icon who is so humble, and he himself, as big as he is, has a pastor.
Yeah.
And his church is bigger. You could drop his pastor's church in the chapel.
Yeah.
But he honors his pastor. He demonstrates leadership. He demonstrates honor. So to watch him, it's not a surprise. It's not, he lives what he preaches.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you, I am so glad that you joined me today.
Thank you, sir. And
I'm just so precious. You preached an amazing message to our church family. And I just want to let you know that I hope you go and you listen to that message. And I hope you also share this podcast. Share it with some of your friends. Let us know your feedback. Come on, give us a good shout out. Give us some hand raise. Let us know that you have joined in. Tell us where you're from also. And also go to one of our platforms, whether that's at north.church or go to our YouTube channel, North Church, or you can go to our Facebook page and watch the message that Pastor Joel delivered at North Church, which was absolutely phenomenal and powerful. And I appreciate you joining us today. I hope that you will again join us next week for the next episode of Up and to the Right. God bless you.